All right, let's get started with Lab 2. Let me walk you through it. So remember to pay attention to that due date and start early. But Lab 2 is going to be on some cool stuff involving conditionals. This won't be a loops lab yet. It will be a conditionals lab. So yeah, let's get started. Get all the starter code in wherever you want to be. So get in your home folder, get in your labs folder, and then run that gimme command, and you should see these two files. All right, those are going to be part of your lab today. So the first one I want you to try is fuzzbizbaz. That's what I've called it. And it's just a play on that fizzbuzz example that I gave you in class. It's going to be a more involved fizzbuzz, essentially. And so I've given you a bunch of comments inside the program for how I want this fancier fuzzbizbaz game to be played. But it's going to look a whole lot like the fizzbuzz example from class. And so here's some example runs of it. Let's go to the code, because the comments are going to be what you look at. So here's the name of the game. You're going to ask the user for a number, just like we do for fizzbuzz, and then next you're going to do the following. Right? So here's the game. You are going to print fuzz if the number is divisible by 2, biz if it's divisible by 3, and then baz if it's divisible by 5. All right? And then every other combination as well. So if it's divisible by 2 and 3, like that's fuzz and biz, so you should print out both. Okay? So, and if it's divisible by 2 and 5, that's what? Fuzz and baz. You get the idea for 3 and 5, right? If it's divisible by all three of those numbers, 2, 3, and 5, then you print all three of those words, fuzz, biz, baz. Okay? So those are your rules of your game. If none of these apply, if the number is not divisible by any of those, then you just print it itself, just like we were doing for fizzbuzz. Okay? So that's your example, right? That's what you're going to be doing for this first part of the lab. That's what you're coding up. And so here's some example runs. Like if it was 2, that's just fuzz, 3 is biz, and then 6 is 2 times 3, right? So that's both fuzz and biz. See it? So there you go. And then 10 is the same as 2 and 5, right? It's 2 and 5, so that's fuzz baz. And then prime numbers, that, like, for example, are 1 that none of those apply, so you just print the number. And then if it's all three of those numbers, 2, 3, and 5, so like 30, you'll print fuzz, biz, baz. All right? And it works for all the other examples as well. So give it a try. You'll have to rearrange these, of course, just like we talked about in class. And yeah, practice your big long if, else if, all the way down to else. Okay? That's what you're going to need here. And I think that is all that I wanted to say. So yeah, just try it out and try a bunch of examples until you get it right. So that's your fuzz, biz, baz part of your lab. And then for the last part of the lab, just 2 programs today, it's tic-tac-toe.cpp. All right. So what this is all about is the user is going to give you a tic-tac-toe board, and you're going to figure out who won for that tic-tac-toe board. All right. So the user gives you a filled-in tic-tac-toe board, and you are meant to like figure out who won from that board. All right. So it's another example of using conditionals. So what's going to happen is the user is going to enter in 9 characters, which represent a tic-tac-toe board. They're going to enter in the numbers in row order, so they're going to type in XOO, OXX, XOX, not numbers, letters. So they're going to type it in that order. And you're meant to interpret that as this exact board. So the user types this, you think of it as this board, and then you look to see who won, and it looks like it's X that won with that diagonal. See that? So yeah, just like you're going to code the game rules of tic-tac-toe. So you want your program to run like this. Like you run it and then ask the user for the game board, and you want to be able to get that all at once. So the user can type with spaces. All right, so go back to lecture to see how I did that, but the answer is to just make a bunch of variables, right? A bunch of char variables in this case. You can read all of them at once with a big long CN line. And as long as the user space separates the thing, each piece is going to be put in the right variable. Okay, so that's how you can get a bunch of things at once from CN. You're going to need to use that. And then, yeah, after that, it's time, right? You've got the board, save it away somewhere safe, and then go and do some if statements to figure out who won. You'll have to check all the different ways for there to be a winner, right? You could win along the rows, along the columns, and then along the 2 diagonals. There will only ever be one winner. I won't like trick you. But yeah, either somebody won, like X or O, or it was a tie. All right, so apparently for this original board it was X, for this example board it was O who won, and then sometimes nobody wins. It's a tie, and you have to figure that too. All right, so that's what I want you to see printing. All right, So that's what I want you to print out. So yeah, just figure out who won. If there was no winner, you'll print out that it was a tie. So kind of here's the syntax, or not the syntax, but the style that I want to see it in. And yeah, I think that's it. I've given you a bunch of comments about that, so I've given the prompt already. Then it's your turn to get some characters from the user. All right, what I want you to do is call them these exact variables, because I've given you some code already. All right, you're welcome. But call the pieces of the board exactly these names, and these are what they represent. All right, so you're going to get them in that exact order. You're going to get them in row order. So like 1 1 means row 1 column 1, row 1 column 2, board row 1 column 3, all the way to B3 3. So get all your characters, save them like this, and that's what they represent. And then it's time to check. All right, check who won. And I'm so nice, I've already given you a way of checking all the rows. I've checked all the rows for a winner. So I've checked to see if there was a winner like this, or like this. All right, it's your job to do the rest. Like, you'll have to check this column, you have to check all the columns, like that one or the other one, and then also the two diagonals. But I've done the rows for you, right? So you just got to keep these same names though, because I've used them. So it's your job to check who won. So I've made this winner variable start with a question mark, and then this checks and sees if somebody won the game using this row. All right. So do you see how this is checking if somebody won this row if they're all equal to the same letter? Okay. You cannot have a bunch of equal signs connected. You couldn't have done this. That's not correct C++. Go back to the precedence rules to find out. But this is fine, and this is how you check if they're all the same. If B11 is equal to B12, that keeps these, that checks that those are the same, and B12 is equal to B13. Do you see how because of that overlap, if that is true, this means that they were all the same? Because these are equal and these are equal, that means they must all three be equal. See that? And then, all right, if that's true, that means somebody won because they got all these together in a row. So you just say who the winner was. Like either these were all X's or all O's. Like I just take one of them. B11, that's the winner. Because I know it's the same as B12 or B13, I could have said B12 or B13 here. Like that would have worked as well. But this is fine, right? Well, I know they're all the same. I'll just take the first one. It's like that's going to save the X or the O, whoever won. And then this is the same for the other rows. Like maybe somebody won this way. So I'll check if these are the same and these are the same. If so, all three were the same, and I'll save who the winner was. So I think you can see how you check the last row. It's the same idea, right? So that's how you check the rows for a winner. And I've been lazy. You could have used if statements. Like I'm just going to use a bunch of if statements because there can only ever be one winner. I'm not going to trick you in my tests or anything. So yeah, that's how you can check the rows. I hope you can see the pattern now. It's like you're going to do the same for the columns. Like you need to check if all of these three align. If so, like somebody won. Figure out who. You'll check these. You'll check all these. And yeah, that's how you check the columns for a winner, and then you'll have to check the diagonals too. Like you can win if all these three are the same, or all these three are the same. Yeah. So yeah, that's your job to add in those checks, and then once you know who the winner was, print out a line to that effect. Right? Say that X1 or O1, if one of them really did. Otherwise, if nobody won at all, if it was a tie, you'll have to notice that too, and you'll print out a line saying that it was a tie. Okay? So it should look exactly like this, but try it out on your own with the other ways to win. You got to make sure that all these different ways could have worked, because I might have a test on each one of them. All right. So yeah, that's your tic-tac-toe program. It's a little more thought, right, than the first one. That's why I started you with the fuzz-biz-baz first. Now tic-tac-toe, you'll get the whole board from the user and figure out who won, if anybody. Okay. So yeah, compile and run that in the normal way, and that's all. That's your lab. And you'll turn in both of those files to lab 2 at CSCI 40. So tic-tac-toe is slightly more complicated, so I'll give you one more point for getting that one working. All right, so I think that was everything that I wanted to say. Do start early, ask lots of questions, and good luck. I'll see you in the next video.